It was a windy spring afternoon in New York City, the kind where your hair never quite does what you want, and the cabs all seem to be in a rush to go nowhere. Outside the Plaza Hotel, a yellow checker cab slowed to a lurching stop. The door opened, halfway, and in stepped Elvis Presley. "Afternoon," he said to the driver with a slow, southern nod. "Take me someplace that does a good banana and peanut butter milkshake." The driver blinked. "Like Elvis Presley, Elvis. That's the one." Just as Elvis settled into the seat, a voice from behind called out, "Oi! You mind if I share the ride?" Elvis turned, squinting through his oversized sunglasses. "Well, I'll be Paul McCartney?" Paul gave a lopsided grin. "That's me, though you're not exactly a stranger yourself." "Well, don't just stand there, son. Hop in before the wind knocks you over." Paul slid in beside him, smoothing his jacket. "Where? You headed then?" "Milkshake," Elvis said matter-of-factly. "One of those thick ones, preferably with a metal cup on the side." Paul chuckled. "You've got taste. Mind if I join?" "I've got nothing to do and a sudden craving." "Be my guest," Elvis said. "Driver, you heard the man. Let's find us a proper milkshake." The cab rolled into motion. In the front seat, the driver, Frankie, kept glancing in the mirror, doing double takes so exaggerated they bordered on dangerous. "You guys really are." "You guys?" "Depends who you think we are," Paul said. Frankie mumbled something about rock and roll and the end of the world, then wisely decided to just drive. "So," Paul said, glancing over at Elvis, "is the hair real?" Elvis laughed. "As real as your accent." Paul grinned. "Fair enough." They passed 59th Street as the cab weaved between honking cars. "You know," Elvis said, tapping his fingers on his knee, "when y'all first came out, I thought, well now, the Beatles are gonna put me out of business." "Oh, come on," Paul replied. "We were just kids trying to be you." "That's so?" "Swear on me, bass. You play left-handed, right?" Paul nodded. "Always have." "Guitars just felt backwards the other way. George thought I was broken." Elvis chuckled. "I like that. Feels rebellious." "You ever smash a guitar on stage?" "Nah," Elvis said. "Guitars are sacred." "Agreed," Paul said, giving him a quick fist bump. They reached a chrome-covered diner called Lenny's Shake Shack, neon signs buzzing, jukebox playing something soulful. Inside, they found a booth and sat across from each other like two undercover kings. The waitress, Diane, approached with a notepad and a stunned expression. "You look like—" "No, it can't be." "It is," Elvis said, smoothly removing his sunglasses. "And yes, he is too." Paul winked. "We'll have 2 banana and peanut butter shakes, please. Extra thick." "And fries," Elvis added. "You can't drink without fries." They dug in as the milkshakes arrived, served in tall glasses with the classic frosty metal tumblers on the side. Paul took a sip and let out a satisfied sigh. "This is the stuff. None of that foamy cafe rubbish." "Reminds me of Memphis," Elvis said. "Diners open past midnight, jukeboxes louder than your mama's voice." "You miss it?" "Every day," Elvis said. "But you can't go back, not really." There was a pause. Then Paul said, "You ever dream of doing something different?" Elvis raised an eyebrow. "Like what? Tax accounting?" "No, I mean, gospel, maybe. Just raw. Voice and heart." "Funny," Elvis said. "I've been thinking about that lately." They sat for a moment, sipping milkshakes and humming under their breath. "You writing anything new?" Elvis asked. Culix hesitated. "Yeah, a thing about a woman. Eleanor something. It's not quite finished." "What's it sound like?" Paul hummed a slow, descending melody. "Kinda sad, like someone walking away." Elvis leaned forward. "Slow it down more. Make it like a prayer." Paul nodded. "Like a requiem." or a goodbye, Elvis added. The boy looked at each other, each silently acknowledging the power of the moment. Suddenly, a group of teenagers entered the diner, whispering and nudging each other when they spotted the booth. One boy mustered the courage and approached. "Excuse me, are you really—" "We're just two guys drinking milkshakes," Paul said. Elvis fished in his pocket and handed the boy a coin. "Go play something decent on that jukebox, will ya?" The boy returned moments later. The diner filled with the sound of "Can't Buy Me Love." Paul groaned. "Seriously? Out of all of them?" Elvis smirked. "Makes people smile. That's what counts." They left a fat tip and exited the diner just as the sky began to tint orange. Back in the cab, this time Paul took the front seat. Elvis sprawled comfortably in the back, arms stretched across the seat like he owned the car. "Hey, Paul," Elvis said, tapping the window. "You ever wonder what aliens would think if the first thing they heard was blue suede shoes?" "I imagine they'd come dressed better than us." They both laughed. As the cab rolled past Central Park, Paul turned around. "So what animal would you be?" "What? If you were an animal?" "I think I'd be a hedgehog." Elvis raised a brow. "A hedgehog?" "Small, soft-spoken, bit prickly when poked." Elvis laughed. "I'm definitely a hound dog. Loyal. Loud. Sleeps on couches." Paul turned to Frankie. "You?" "I think I'm a pigeon," Frankie muttered. "All over the place. A little lost, but nobody really minds me." They laughed the rest of the way to the Chelsea Hotel. As the cab rolled to a stop, Paul turned around to Elvis. "Well, thanks for the ride. Thanks for the company." Paul reached into the back seat. "Seriously, gospel. Think about it." Elvis nodded. "And finish that Eleanor song. It's got something." They shook hands one last time. Then Paul got out and disappeared through the lobby doors. Elvis sat back, watching the sidewalk disappear behind the cab window. Frankie drove in silence for a few minutes. Then he said, "No one's ever going to believe this." Elvis smiled. "That's all right. Sometimes the best stories are the ones nobody would believe anyway." And that was that. No paparazzi. No screaming fans. Just a cab ride, a couple of milkshakes, and a memory. Years later, Paul would think back on that afternoon whenever he passed a diner or heard "Love Me Tender" on the radio. And Elvis? He'd scribble down the name Eleanor on a napkin one day, humming a melody he couldn't place. As for Frankie, well, he told his wife once. She didn't believe him, but now you know. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The power of a story.